it's really funny. We'll get like comments to be like, you guys must be the worst people to watch a movie with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we don't make any sound in the movie. Like, I'm afraid to open up candy or anything during a movie. So you kind of have to like fight your instincts to externalize your thoughts.
Yeah.
There is a balance to like paying attention, understanding what you're watching, commenting, improvising. We have to pay attention to what we're saying to each other and have a conversation. So there's a lot of like thinking going on. That was definitely probably my biggest learning curve early on in the channel, was like finding out that balance of when to comment on stuff. You somehow become like a smarter movie watcher to try to anticipate moments where like, okay, I might be able to get a few words in without ruining the moment or the scene or something.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse Podcast, brought to you by Passionfruit, where we interview everyone in the reaction space. I'm joined today by the dynamic duo of Daniel and Sam, most famously known as TBR Schmitt. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We right before we started, we're like, man, we're nervous.
Please, no need at all. I'm happy to have you here. It's actually, I saw you recently in the Cinebinge video that you did with them, so I'm going to talk about that for sure. But more importantly, you were actually requested several times over through our comments and stuff just to have you come on. So it's been something I've been meaning to get around to, so I'm happy to have you here today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. I'm also excited to see the magic behind you, the green screen.
Yeah, just a big painted wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to just jump right into it. I know you did a Q&A video on your channel last year, sort of talking about the sort of behind the scenes aspect of some of those parts of the channel. We're going to touch upon some of those again. First and foremost, what I like to ask for, sort of duos like this is how you met and how was the story behind that?
Okay. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
No, you start.
Okay. Yeah. So we've known each other since the 8th grade. And we actually sat right next to each other in Mrs. Love's math class.
Yeah.
So perfect name for the teacher. And as an 8th grade boy, I was still nervous around girls, but her friend let me know that she had a crush on me. And I didn't do anything about it. I was too afraid of girls, I'll admit. So it only took me another 10 or 15 years before I developed the confidence in myself to, our paths kind of crossed again in college. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was finally confident enough to make my move.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the long story short.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you two in each other's circles, or was it something that you or was it something really you're like, oh, I haven't seen you in so many years?
No, yeah. So we went to the same schools for junior high and then high school and then community college. So yeah, I mean, every once in a while, we would pass each other, but
Yeah, we weren't really in the same circles until college. And yeah, we were actually ended up just at a house party together. Right. And that was the first time we kind of reconnected.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. Right. The classic story.
Yeah. I come from a small town, and that's a very similar experience for a lot of people that I know. It's we, same middle school, high school, college, so on, so on. So you're around the same people for a long time, and eventually everyone gets together in some capacity. And yeah, I know. Again, for the name TBR Schmitt comes from your old gamer tag from your gaming days back before you started the channel for reaction specifically. What was your sort of early exposure to YouTube? I guess not just as a creator, but also just a viewing standpoint, just sort of getting exposed to the culture around it.
I would probably say I started heavily watching YouTube with video game Let's Plays. Mm-hmm. So probably the biggest one that I would spend time watching was Rooster Teeth or Achievement Hunter. So I spent a lot of time watching that or League of Legends tournaments. I suck at League, but so I was watching a lot of video game type stuff. And then it was pretty much around Game of Thrones, Red Wedding type of situation where I noticed a lot of people posting like reactions to people watching that moment in Game of Thrones. And I was like, oh, I love this. And that just kind of opened up my world to like reaction content. And then I watched that for years before Sam and I actually started our channel. And the TBR Schmitt, yeah, that's my old like Xbox gamer tag. And I had created a YouTube channel like a very long time ago with just, I was like, might as well use the same username. So when we started the reaction channel, we never anticipated it to become anything. So in hindsight, like we probably should have like named our channel like
something movie related.
Sam and Dan movie channel or whatever, like anything other than TBR Schmitt. But then it got to the point where people just knew us as TBR Schmitt. And I was like, well, we can't really change it now.
No, so. He kept asking. He's like, can we just add your name to it? I was like, no, like I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to mess with the algorithm or anything. Right. So we just left it alone.
Yeah, it's dicey. It's dicey territory to try to rename midway through, once you've been established.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned, getting to the reaction space, when you started sort of like, getting in towards like the era which you would try to start the channel for reactions, were you emulating anyone specifically? Was there anyone you sort of like took inspiration from for like, just stylistically how you would like to sort of, approach your channel?
I'm not really quite sure. I mean, I was fans of a lot of different reaction channels, but I'm like not a huge, or I don't know, I guess what is called Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, yeah.
So I knew of that, even though I've never seen much of that, but I always had like the image of like their silhouette in like when they're watching something. So I kind of was like, oh, it would be cool to have a green, and I already had like a pop-up green screen. So I was like, let's just go with that. And the style of like black and like there's like nothing really going on. That was just for pure like easiness. Like I was like, I don't have the time to make anything crazy. So like, I'm just going to green screen everything out and we're going to just roll with that.
Yeah.
And you brought Sam on pretty quickly. Sam, you were in the first movie reaction that was on the channel really quickly after it launched. Were you also familiar with the reaction space, or was this something you had to be sort of introduced to for the sake of the channel?
No, not at all. I know that he watched it. I think he had talked about Brandon likes movies. There was like, I think he had even become a patron, or you requested a movie, or I don't remember.
No, I was like just about to sign up to he had like a tier where you could get a movie guaranteed. And I was just about to do it. And then I saw that he uploaded the movie that I wanted. And I was like, sick, that worked out. But yeah, I'd probably talk to you about like Brandon was a really early one. Before that was probably Nikki and Steven.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They've been around, knocking it out of the park for a long time. So I was a huge fan of them. And I was watching all of their Game of Thrones stuff. So she would just be hanging out on the couch watching, Housewives or something.
I'm like a reality TV junkie. So I would sit on the couch and watch that while he's on his phone watching, reactions. So that's kind of how I got introduced to it. I'm going to be honest, in the beginning, I was like, I don't understand this concept. Like, it sounds kind of funny. But he showed me a couple of things. I'm not familiar with, like Game of Thrones, early Game of Thrones or anything. So, the Red Wedding and all that stuff that he was excited about. He had to like find stuff that I had seen, to be able to kind of show me. And, obviously once COVID hit, I think it was like a good time. So he was kind of showing it to me like, hey, I want to do this. And it was going to be something that he did on his own. And then with all the time and stuff that kind of went into it, he was like, hey, like, you want to watch some stuff with me?
Yeah, because with COVID happening, we both started working from home.
Yeah.
So we just had a lot more extra time. And I had pretty much the camera and the green screen already just for like Twitch stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's try something. And I was watching The Boys. That was like the first show that I did because I had seen the very first episode. So I almost used the very first episode as like a test run where I was like, okay, like it's really fun. Sorry, I'm going to go on tangents a lot, but
Sure, no problem.
it's really funny. We'll get like comments to be like, you guys must be the worst people to watch a movie with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we don't make any sound in the movie. Like, I'm afraid to open up candy or anything during a movie. So you kind of have to like fight your instincts to externalize your thoughts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I used the first episode of The Boys because I was like, I've already seen it, so it might be easier for me to talk about it on camera because I know what's happening.
Right.
So that was like my trial run. And then I did a few episodes of The Boys, but also it's time consuming to do like a reaction video. And
Totally.
so even though we were both home, like, you know, she would be hanging out on the weekends and then I would go in like the office to record and then edit, and she wouldn't see me all day long, even though I'm just watching like one episode of TV.
Yeah.
So it was also like, I don't want to spend that much time not hanging out with my wife. And we both love movies. So she had the first experience with Peanut Butter Falcon was our first movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think we enjoyed the movie so much and we had such a good time recording it that we just kept it going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you mentioned, up top that it's that shared experience that sort of is what drives reactions. It's the idea of like sort of living vicariously through that person again to, see their experience. It's sort of like you remember like what it was like when you saw it the first time.
Yeah.
And being able to share that with one another is like, I think, yes, like you said, it's a very important process because it's time consuming. It's a lot of work and it can be a strain, just to sort of like, put yourself into that for several hours a day, trying to just, crank those out. So it was a smart move, honestly, to just share that experience in hindsight. And yeah, but you mentioned also that, you studied film in school. And so you have a background with, knowledge of film and just, a back catalog of movies that you've seen. And so, Sam, I wanted to ask, what was your exposure to film prior to that? And how did those two experiences sort of inform how you would approach the channel?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the movies on the channel are like wife's first time reaction because it's a lot of stuff that I haven't seen. I am not like I wasn't, I guess before this channel, like a movie junkie at all. I really like TV. If I could just like rot on the couch, I'm happy. Growing up, I was very active doing, extracurricular activities and things. So I wasn't really spending a lot of time at the movies. And if I was watching a movie, it was, stuff that maybe was like in theater and we'd go with some friends or stuff like that. I wasn't watching a lot of the genres that are big on our channel now. So like a lot of like the action movies and the war films and things like that. It was not something I was interested in watching. So it was mostly like rom-coms. A lot of time on the weekends, like on like a Sunday, my mom and I would have breakfast and we'd watch like some really terrible like Lifetime movie. That was like a big thing for us. Right. But yeah, I didn't have a lot of exposure and it was mostly by choice. I wasn't like a sheltered kid or anything like that. But yeah, just kind of prioritized other things.
Totally.
Yeah. And so that also helped because I have seen a handful of films that, would probably be more popular reactions and stuff. Like, we don't have Marvel movies on our channel because we're like anti-Marvel. It's because we've seen all of them in theaters. Like we don't have Star Wars. We don't have Lord of the Rings. Like a lot of these like big popular stuff we don't have. And then like Sam said, a lot of the stuff is wife's first time because she didn't see a lot of stuff. It was also very exciting for me to share some of my favorite films with her, which was something that we were already doing beforehand. So I feel like Sam started watching a lot more movies when we just became a couple in general.
Sure.
Even like there was a glory period of Movie Pass.
Are you familiar with Movie Pass?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So we did get Movie Pass and we were going to the movie, like we were seeing like a movie every weekend.
Yeah.
If not more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were going constantly. I mean, it didn't matter what the movie was or if it was good or bad.
Yeah.
We were just going and that when we were done watching the movie.
I'm like, we're not linked up.
When we were done watching the movie, we would chill in the car or on the drive home, it would take, 15, 20 minutes to drive home. So we would just talk about the movie. So when the channel came around, it felt very normal for us to like watch a movie together and then just talk about it.
Chat. Yeah.
And just chat about it in the end. We're not movie reviewers or anything like that. We're just talking about films that we liked. And so it helped become a little bit more natural, because it is weird kind of talking into a camera and stuff.
For sure.
There's definitely learning curves, in terms of that, of just getting comfortable on that. What was, I guess, the process, for those early videos, sort of just getting comfortable on camera, on top of, things like the technical aspects of, just like recording, editing, lighting, just making sure everything's sort of going according to plan.
Right.
I mean, you got comfortable, like you said, with the boys, starting with a show that you had seen the first episode of, I feel like was good. And it just took a long time for me, I feel like, to come out of my shell. If you watch some of the earliest videos on the channel, it's like I'm barely talking.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting to watch our old stuff and how we interact with each other, or how vocal we are. Even like how I used to edit stuff. Like, sometimes I look back at old edits, I'm like, how did I get this past copyright?
Yeah.
Like,
There's a lot of movie.
I was like, I used to show so much, but now if I try to do the same thing, I get instantly nailed by YouTube. Our style has definitely changed over what it's been like 4 years, which is crazy. But our style has changed. We've opened up a lot more. We're a lot more comfortable. Even myself, one of the first things we watched was I showed her Saving Private Ryan, which was or is one of my favorite movies. And I know in that reaction, I talked way too much. Like I ruined that. And it wasn't something that we can't like film it and try again, because at this point she has seen it. So that was definitely probably my biggest learning curve early on in the channel, was like finding out that balance of when to actually comment on stuff. And
for sure,
obviously it's hard, because like if you're watching something, you don't know if like some crazy thing is about to happen on screen, so you have to
talk over it.
You have to kind of like you somehow become like a smarter movie watcher to try to anticipate moments where like, okay, I might be able to get a few words in without ruining the moment or the scene or something.
It's tricky. It's a tricky balance, like you said. Just it becomes a hyper fixated experience of multitasking and improvisation. Like it's a weird mixture of things to like sort of experience things on the fly, interact with it, but also still be engaged with it in the way you're supposed to, which is to watch it and then absorb it. The dichotomy between the first time watches with Sam and the first time watches for both of you, I am sure just a different experience between those two different sittings. I guess, how would you sort of describe that, the sitting and watching something with each other that Sam hasn't seen before but you have, or the experience of watching something together for the first time, and how that sort of changes?
I think usually while we're getting ready, if it's something that he's seen and I haven't, he's like hyping me up, because he's like, this is a you reaction, like this is your thing and whatever. So he's like making sure, like hyping me up to make sure basically that I'm like talking enough. Since I tend to not talk as much as you do usually. So I think that, but I think you get a little, we'll have like the kind of on our second screen, like everything's pulled up. So he'll check it every once in a while, obviously makes sure everything's still recording okay and everything. But I know you'll get like a little glimpse of like, oh, how is she actually reacting to this moment?
For sure. When it's something that she's watching for the first time, I'm trying to also say some stuff, but not spoil anything. And then I'm also excited to see like her reaction. So, some movie with like some big twist or something, like I'm just like patiently or impatiently waiting for this moment to come to see what she, how she responds to it. But I think, I try to hype her up more when it's a her. And then also it's like, if it's like super late at night, and it's, maybe we're both tired or something.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, but we need to record. We'll typically go with something that we both haven't seen so that like we can both contribute. So if it's like she's had a long day at work, we're not also going to like have her be the predominant reactor for just a Sam reaction. Because that's just, you know, at that point, she might just be mentally drained. And like you said, there is a balance to like paying attention, understanding what you're watching, commenting, improvising. She also, or like I also, we have to pay attention to what we're saying to each other and have a conversation. So there's a lot of like thinking going on. Yeah. So sometimes you can like watch a normal movie and you might be like just mentally drained. Whereas you could sit on the couch and watch, you know, movies all day long and feel totally fine.
Yeah, because you're not like on.
Yeah, you have to like switch yourself on for this. Yeah. Which is weird.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, it's not the same experience. You know, I've talked with this, you know, before about with other people. You know, it's a different experience. Like you said, people will comment saying, oh, you guys must be terrible to watch movies with. Yeah. It's like, no, like, you know, we can definitely edit a part where we cut out all the parts. We just put in all the parts where you're not talking, you know, we cut those parts out specifically. That's why it's a reaction. But it also switches, yes, your brain in a different way as opposed to watching in a theater or at home. It's the same as like, you know, going to like a live sports game. You know, the energy of just being in the stadium, being with other people changes how you're interacting with the game itself. And, you know, for movies, when you're doing this with a group of friends, even off camera, you know, or on camera with each other, it changes how you sort of, you know, invest yourself in the movie. You get more excited. You sort of, you hype yourself up more. Yeah. It's part of the process. And for you, you know, you mentioned, you know, just with the idea of being on camera and sort of finding, you know, the balance between, each other and how that sort of you engage with the conversation over the time, you know, with the years that you've been doing it. Have you found it, you know, easier to like articulate yourself between one another in terms of like what you're experiencing? Because I know it's easy to, not easy, but it's one thing to speak to the movie and sort of say like, oh, hey, that thing happened, but to then try to carry the conversation for each other. I guess your sort of film knowledge as it's evolved, has that sort of changed or shifted over time?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so for sure. We've definitely become a lot more comfortable communicating with each other on camera while we're working. And even if we're watching something, I feel like both of us view things in a very similar way, which kind of helps. So there's this aspect where sometimes we don't necessarily even finish like our thoughts. Like something will like happen. And, you know, maybe both of us are anticipating something to happen later on in the movie because of the earlier event. And it could just be something as simple as like, oh, dang. And like we look at each other and it's like, oh, I can tell that I'm on the same page as Sam and stuff. So that's definitely helpful. Whereas I'm sure if we saw something and we had two drastically different like viewpoints, that, you know, maybe there would be a little bit more clashing. But overall, even in like our outro discussions, I think it's pretty apparent that we almost always see the film the same way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that we balance each other out in how we discuss things. And if I pick up on something, I can start talking about it, and then it's like, oh, a reminder for you, or vice versa. Yeah. So I think that, over the years of doing it, it's definitely progressed and changed in a good way, I think.
Yeah, in a good way for sure. Because even sometimes there might be something that happens, and like I'll try to like make like a mental list of like, oh, I want to talk about that in the outro, but it might, you know, fall out of my memory by the time we're talking. But she'll bring it up, and I'll be like, oh, perfect, yes, I wanted to talk about that. So I think the duo of both of us is really helpful.
Yeah, it's a good alley-oop between one another to remind you, like, hey, this happened. Like, what do you think about this? Having the channel for the last few years, when you started, like we said, it was during the pandemic. That's when we saw the sort of big reaction space boom of people being at home and, you know, having time and, you know, the need to sort of connect with people online. When you started, did you have any idea of like, you know, sort of what you wanted to do with the channel, or was it just sort of like, you know, on the fly, like, let's try one thing and just move from there?
Yeah, I mean, we still don't have any type of goals or expectations or anything. It's just, let's just do it.
Yeah, I mean, even currently we're still treading water. Like we've been treading water since we started.
Yeah, like we're not ahead in filming most things.
Yeah, like anything that's coming out like next week, we have not watched yet.
Yeah.
So like that's how short our catalog is. So yeah, it's quite a process to kind of get it all done, but I think we've been doing okay so far.
Yeah. But yeah, nothing to answer your question. No, not really like expecting anything kind of out of it or
no,
come with any type of plan.
no. Yeah. I mean, I think Sam is like the one to credit for a lot of the consistency. Like, I think if it was just me, I would probably just be uploading videos whenever I had something kind of like ready. But Sam does all of the schedules and the Photoshop, the planning of everything. And it made it feel a lot more, I guess, real. Like it wasn't just something that I'm like, turning on a camera and whatever happens and throw it up. And, it made it feel, I don't want to say like a job, but like it added some credibility to be like taking it a little bit more seriously. So we've never expanded this to be our full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
But it sure would have been nice, but I think we would have to like double or triple our amount of content. So it's always been just something that we do on weeknights or weekends. But we don't really have like some master plan for what to accomplish. It just kind of snowballed, and we're still here treading water, and we'll do it for as long as we can.
Yeah. Just for fun.
Nothing wrong with that, honestly. You won't believe how many channels I've spoken to. They're like, I just put a camera on me and hit go, and nothing's changed. Over the last even like 5-6 years, I've known some people in this space. So you're not alone in that regard. So don't no need to feel like any sort of way about it. But you mentioned scheduling and all in Photoshop, all that stuff. Sam did that. Were those skills that you already had sort of prior to the channel, or something you sort of developed as you went along for this?
Photoshop, no. I mean, I'm sure nobody's gonna be like, wow, those thumbnails are amazing. But they get the job done. No, I mean, my family that's like what they do. They're all in like to art and like design and that type of stuff. And that was not something that I was into. I was like, I studied biology. Like I'm like very like on that side of things, not super creative. But I think the organization I've always had. So to make sure that we're sticking to a schedule, and I know with YouTube, like consistency is key. So just making sure we have like a solid upload schedule. And I'm also like a bit of a people pleaser. So I always want to make sure like we're getting the content out, especially for Patreon and people are paying for this content. Like it puts a lot more kind of pressure and like the expectation that you just want to do a good job for those people,
Yeah, I think if we do have a goal, it would always be to just get further ahead.
Yeah.
So that we can, really lock down that consistency, especially because sometimes we'll upload something and YouTube will just knock it down.
Yeah.
So it's like I might be able to like wrap up and edit and export it and upload it 30 minutes before it's supposed to go live. And it's like, cool, I did it. We're going to stay on track. And then it'll upload and it'll be like, your video is blocked. And I'm like, well, there we go. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, those hiccups can really derail things really quickly. And once you had your footing in the space and sort of you were sort of putting things out on a consistent basis, do you remember any early feedback or reception you can recall that sort of told you like, hey, we're actually sort of tapping into something here?
I mean, I feel like especially with the early videos, you got a lot of compliments on the editing. I remember seeing a good amount of comments that talked about how, although not a replacement for watching the movies, that it very much felt like you could follow the story with the stuff that you were including. So I feel like that was kind of a good push and like, oh, hey, we're doing something right.
Yeah. I think one of the moments that still sticks with me is we uploaded like a video. We went to sleep, got up the next morning to get ready for work, and the channel had gotten 7 subscribers overnight.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Because at that point too, I had already annoyed everyone in her family and my family to subscribe to the channel. So I knew that number was like, that was it. We had no more friends and family to subscribe.
So these were actual like strangers.
Yeah. So it was this very weird feeling where I was like, there's 7 people out there in the world who subscribe to stuff that we did. And we just never stopped from that moment.
Yeah.
That first taste, it's a good motivator to keep going. And over the years you've done film and TV. You still do some TV show reactions for certain things. I haven't seen your Midnight Mass reactions, but I saw that on the back catalog, so I'm excited to go through that because that's one of my favorite shows of all time. So
same.
Whenever I find someone new and I'm like, did they react to Midnight Mass? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna like spend the night just like watching all those in a binge. But what is how would you say is the difference between movie reactions and TV reactions? Just because like you said, it's just a different time commitment to go through the episodes, to edit them consistently. It's a much bigger experience, I think, between the two of them. But how would you describe that?
I really like doing television shows. I think that it's kind of more the consistency of the audience, I think. That you're going to have those same commenters coming back and they're excited to see upcoming episodes. I guess specifically when I think about that, I do think about The Sopranos. I think that was like 86 episodes or somewhere like that, around there. So that took us, we did 2 episodes a week, right? And that took us like half a year.
Yeah, or longer
to do. Yeah. So it just feels really cool to see like the same commenters coming back and people just getting excited about it. Whereas with the movies, like people get excited, I guess movies too on like series that have like multiple sequels
like Rocky
and stuff.
Or something.
Yeah. It kind of feels the same way. But I don't know, television, and I guess it's always been kind of a comfort for me, TV, I like. So it feels good to kind of just get back into it every week and be getting back to something Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like you see more of our personality with a TV show because we get comfortable with the material. We have our favorite characters or whatever. And there's a lot more to discuss from episode to episode. So you might see more of our personality leak through on a TV reaction, whereas a movie reaction, it's just kind of like a one and done. And sometimes we're like on it and we're totally focused. And then sometimes we'll watch a movie, excuse me, and it'll be over and we'll be like, shoot, we missed a couple of things and stuff. So it can feel a little like, oh, dang, we missed the mark on that movie. Again, you get one chance to film it and that's it. So TV, the consistency, like you said, I think I prefer TV reactions as well.
Yeah. Not that we don't love movies, though.
yeah. But like you said, though, it's the opportunity to come back to the material.
Yeah.
And sort of be like, oh, I remember this thing. This character said this thing. Maybe we'll come back. Sort of finding that, new experience is important for TV show reactions because, like you said, you build an audience through those specific experiences that they can come back to and rely upon. And for you, when you have, new stuff that comes out, new movies, new shows, how do you sort of decide, what is going to be for the channel, what might be for, just personal viewing, for new material? How do you approach that?
We don't really have like it's a big discussion, in our house when new things are coming up or when we're coming to the end of a show, especially we're like, what do we want to do? Do we want to do a YouTube poll? Do we want to do a Patreon poll? Do we want to just ask people what they think? Do we want to just go into this? So I feel like it's just a big discussion, specifically with a lot of the newer stuff that we've done. We try to keep up when things are released, if it's something that kind of makes sense. So we did it for Reacher, the 2nd season.
Yeah.
The timing was good. We've also been, lucky enough to get screeners for certain shows, which will kind of put us in a good position recording wise. but there's no rhyme or reason. Like, we're just like, what do we want to do?
No, yeah, we probably spend too much time planning out our schedule and like what's the new movie or new show to watch.
Yeah.
But we don't really have, like, I would say we don't have very much time at all, like to do anything anyways. So it's kind of nice that it's not like we're making a choice to be like, oh, let's just watch this on our free time. And we'll watch this for the channel. Pretty much everything we do watch is on the channel. If we're not,
for the most part, yeah.
If we're not watching it on the channel, it's not like we'll watch this and then go sit on the couch and watch like whatever, Breaking Bad or something on our own or something.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much just what's on the channel. And then like I said, I really like reality TV and things. That's pretty much all we watch.
Yeah.
Outside of the channel.
Yeah, it's just reality television outside of the channel.
Yeah, it's a good break from the narrative stuff to the reality stuff. It's a good getaway.
Yeah.
Do you find it difficult to avoid spoilers or anything like that online? Just from before you get to see something for the channel.
Yeah, I definitely accidentally get stuff spoiled quite often. Even just if I'm searching through whatever a normal feed on Instagram or Twitter or something might pop up and I'm like, shoot.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a challenge to try to avoid stuff. I think a lot of our content though has skewed to like older shows or older movies. So that's a lot less likely to get spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't affected the channel so far, I believe.
No, and I don't honestly really have the same issue. I feel like a lot of your interests, like your For You page, your Explore page, that's like a lot of how that's targeted at you. Mm-hmm. Where for me, that's not really on my social media. So I don't really get a lot of any type of spoilers or anything like that on my feeds.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, especially like you said, being able to not watch stuff, to watch reality TV as opposed to the narrative stuff. It's a good way to just like separate yourself from that. Like having those breaks away is important as well. Just because, as we mentioned, being married, being in the same household and sharing the work together is a lot. And it's a lot of stuff that sort of like mixes life and work in a way that it's very common now and post-pandemic, that everyone's sort of like having jobs that feels like it bleeds over into like personal time and so on. I've talked to Popcorn in Bed, Cassie mentioned that it's hard for her to step away and not think about the channel, not think about like, did I put out a social video, did I did we get the edit done, did we do this? How do you sort of balance that separation between like personal time and work time and sort of just like avoiding things like overwhelming yourself and getting burnt out on it?
We don't do a very good job.
No,
to be honest.
To be honest, we've been, like I said, we've been treading water since we started. We're pretty much in that same boat. Like we are almost never like turned off. We'll be working and then we're done working our normal jobs, then it's working YouTube. And if we're not, if Sam's not, working on a thumbnail, she's, working on the schedule. And if I'm not, doing something around the house or something, I'm sitting and editing something, getting ready for an edit to post and stuff. So, and because this is not our main job, it has to be done after work hours and it has to be done on the weekend. So, it pretty much consumes every available second of our life.
But we do have a baby now.
Right. I was like, what's the but?
Right.
Yeah. So I think along with just the blessing of a baby, I feel like it's also been good that we do spend like family time together. So that's kind of forced us into making sure that we do take time away.
Yeah.
Because it definitely was more like time consuming before she was born. So now we definitely spend a lot of family time together and like we're not spending the entire weekends filming. We want to make sure that, we're doing family stuff, getting outside the house and things. So.
Yeah. It's that's also very important. I've spoken with Sunny and Karen Sunny and Adonis Xavier just had his baby as well. It's different. It's different when you cross that threshold and you have, a kid to take care of, a family time to sort of prioritize. As much as it is fun to dive headfirst into these things, you got to find a way to make sure those things are taken care of.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that.
And we've been able to squeeze almost all of our recording when she's asleep at night or or when she's napping. So it's very uncommon that she'll just be awake and, with a babysitter or grandparents or whatever. I say babysitter, it's always our grandparents. So if it wasn't for both our grandparents, we would be struggling for sure.
Both our parents, her grandparents.
Oh, yeah.
It's just being able to fit that in the time that you have, working full-time schedules. Do you find it difficult at all to jump into it after like a full day? Like how do you sort of get into the mode of being on camera when you have, like the baby's asleep finally, the work's done, like let's start the day in terms of like the content creation?
Right,
yeah. Sometimes it's hard. I work in like a corporate job. So, there's frustrations like any kind of 9-to-5 type job. And any of the days that I do have to commute, it's like, oh my gosh. So we generally try not to on the days that I do have to commute to work, because it's just like I'm burnt out from the day. But on the days that I work from home, it's a lot easier, and you're working from home, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. And it's kind of like this balance, because this is not like our main source of income. It allows us to not be too stressed about the analytics or anything to try to get, as much content up as possible. So we'll always like tell ourselves and each other like, hey, if we're not in the zone, if we're not feeling up to like recording, let's not, because we would rather record when we're like much more awake and ready to be in front of camera than just like push through and then maybe we have
something mediocre.
Yeah, make like a mediocre, or like we're half asleep watching something. So yeah, there's definitely a balance with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just being in the space itself has been, I think impacted by your presence as well as just like, being amongst your peers. Like we mentioned earlier, you were in the Cinnabinge video that was reading mean comments.
Recommendation: if you want to talk, please don't zoom in on your face. It's very boring for us who watch your videos.
Just hard zoom on our face.
Similar to like the mean tweets from like Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
I think that was basically the concept. I guess, can you walk us through just how they approached you for that? And, what was that like? Just sort of like, picking the ones that you would read out loud and stuff.
Yeah. Well, so I guess like a little behind the scenes, there were a couple of channels that created like a Discord server for channels. So we've all kind of gotten to connect that way, which has been really cool. Talking about issues with like copyright, anything like that, or just like tech equipment, and if people need help with that. It's just been such a good place to connect with everyone. So I got to talk to George through there, and he messaged me about his idea for this video, which was so cool. I thought, we've been able to be a part of Popcorn in Bed's Poppies a couple of years.
Right.
So little collaborations like that have been like a highlight for us. Like we love getting to connect with other reaction channels. So I was really thankful to get asked for us to be a part of that video. And, if we were probably not as behind as we are, we would be able to hopefully collaborate a little bit more. Right. But yeah, I think that's kind of how we connected on that. And we've gotten to know a lot of people through the Discord that way. And then in terms of the mean comments, I mean, we essentially, once he asked, it was like, okay, like, we got to make sure, like, we take a screenshot of something, and we made just like a little shared album on our phones between us, and we were just throwing stuff in there so that we could just kind of pick and choose.
Yeah, we definitely had some like heavy hitters that we lost to time or something, or we just couldn't find the screenshot or whatever.
Yeah, because obviously there's been things over the years, and we're not keeping those really.
Yeah. You don't keep those memories.
But there are some, like, we'll chat with each other. And if I sent him something, I'm like, oh, hey, like there was one back here that we could pull. But yeah, just kind of pulling things that just were so ridiculous, I think, that it was just funny, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, everyone deals with it in their own way. And it's just kind of like an unfortunate reality that like you post something online, someone's going to say something negative.
Yeah. And it's okay. I mean, not everyone's going to like us. I think some of those comments were obviously like so overboard that it's like, whoa. But yeah, I mean, you know, it happens.
Yeah. We've done a pretty good job of just, our tactic is typically trying to just not comment back to those, even though sometimes you have like the urge where you're like, oh, I have a great comeback. Like I want to, but then you're like, no, this person just wants me to interact with them. Yeah. So you don't want to like let them win that way. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was just a really fun thing to do with everyone involved. And I think we were maybe the reason why it took so long to come out.
I know, it felt so bad. He like gave us a deadline and then we were so delayed, just like with everything else going on. We were just so delayed. So we finally got it over to him and then he sent it out to everyone. He's like, hey, we were able to finish this. I was like, oh no, it was definitely waiting on us.
Yeah. So thank you for waiting.
Yeah. But it was fun.
Yeah, it was great to see. Yeah, so I'm glad you were able to get in there. Yeah, and like you said, just trying to navigate the space, with, commenters and sort of, the mix between positivity and negativity. Do you approach, those things in any specific way when you get negative comments, but also just when you approach something that maybe is like, culturally, tumultuous, something that like, oh, this is like maybe the show was a little controversial, right. That like people are saying things about it that like are a little shaky. How does that inform your reaction to it?
I mean, we generally just still try to be ourselves. I mean, if there's gonna be something kind of controversial, it's gonna come up. I think regardless if we even comment on it or if we don't even put it in the reaction or anything like that, people are going to see, oh, this show or, oh, this movie, and they're going to comment on it before they've even watched.
Right.
So, I mean, we really just, I mean, for me, when I'm reading comments, I really just don't want people to be mean, especially to each other. If there's like fights in the comments or anything like that, I don't like that at all. And I just like, I want to break it up because it's like, come on, guys, like this is a movie or this is a TV show. Like we need to relax a little bit.
I think we also try our best to be positive when we're talking about something, because every single thing we watch on the channel is essentially being recommended by someone because it's close to them, personal, maybe their favorite or whatever. So obviously there's stuff that we watch on the channel that the quality wise is probably not that great, but we're going to find what we enjoyed and what we liked. And that's what we'll focus on. So hopefully us kind of approaching certain things with a little bit more positivity allows the discussions to be a little bit more positive, because at the end of the day, you said it earlier on in the discussion, like the whole point of this is about sharing these experiences with each other and sharing, your passionate experience with someone else. And you're not like, no one's sharing a movie to be like, oh, I can't wait till they watch this because it's going to ruin their day or something.
Right, yeah.
So I think everyone hopefully in this kind of community is coming at it with that same viewpoint. Obviously, you'll always have your outliers, and we've always done our best to just, filter those out of our mind and focus more on the positive comments. But even like Sam said, especially in our Patreon, like we'll always try to just keep the discussion focused on the actual content that we're watching and not let things get too personal or off topic, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely engaging with it from a positive perspective has been the sort of the right way to go for most of these things, because like you said, it's just, if you fall down the rabbit hole of, trying to look at it with like, a side eye of, what's wrong with this thing, it can spiral out of control for a lot of people that I've seen. I guess for yourself over the years with, reviewing films and just discussing them, has your relationship, with film evolved? Do you feel like a little more comfortable, or, just sort of dissecting it as you see it and also just reviewing it after the fact?
I think so, for sure. We've always liked to talk about films after we've watched them and have those long discussions. That's always been kind of like a favorite thing when we leave the movies, is the whole car ride home. We're just talking about what we watched. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's definitely changed how we approach that stuff. And even now, maybe if we're home and we're watching something on TV, I'm a lot more likely to like talk about that certain scene, with Sam or something like that, just because I'm so used to that's what we do. Like we talk now. Again, we don't talk in the movie theaters.
No, we do not.
But yeah, no, even like watching stuff or thinking about past stuff that we have seen, I always kind of view it now in the lens of like, oh man, I wish we could have gotten our first reaction to this on camera.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of made me more reflect on the old stuff that we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a reaction pilled, as we call it. Thinking about it that way. And start wrapping things up here. I guess, what has been the most consistent obstacle that you faced over your time with the channel?
Time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think
time for sure. Because at the end of the day, this is not necessarily something that's difficult. Like, we're just watching movies and TV over here. We're not, rocket scientists technically, but it's the time, that getting ready to film something, getting everything set up to film, actually having our intro discussion or outro discussion, watching the content, getting all the files prepped and ready, going through all the editing process. Like, you could watch a 1-hour TV show, and from start to finish to get something actually up on YouTube, it's going to take you 10 plus hours or something like that. Right. So it really is just finding the time to do it. I think if we had a lot more time, we would have a lot more content up
for sure
weekly.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of the hard parts of the channel are all of the stuff around, like before we get in the chair and after we leave the chair, to just make sure that we can get everything up and good and we're organized and all that. So
yeah, definitely. Time is a factor for these things. And how would you say you've personally grown over the years with the channel?
Ooh, well, especially now with our daughter, I feel like I view things way differently now than just being like a dad. Mm-hmm. And then I think also just naturally being a little bit more comfortable with myself on camera.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's a huge one. Growing and being more comfortable on camera. Also definitely having a greater appreciation for film in general. Like I said, I wasn't really a film buff by any means. So just learning and appreciating film a lot more. And I think from reading comments too, and people sharing like their personal experiences or memories with a certain film, or if there's anything like historically that affected them, anything like that, I think it's just all like a learning and growing process. So from the films, from the comments, from everything, I think it's just growing in general.
Yeah. And I think like looking at the comments, kind of like you were saying, and how other people respond to the same movies and how personal it might be. I think I also feel like a sense of pride or accomplishment in the fact that I feel like we're connected with a lot more people out there in the world.
Right.
'Cause I mean, even before YouTube existed, that was like what I like to do, is show people something that I really enjoyed, and hopefully they would enjoy it also, and I get to see their experience to enjoying it and stuff. So I feel like we achieved our goal of just connecting with people, and we're just super blessed to be able to keep doing that 4 years later.
Yeah,
Of course. Yeah. The connection is definitely my favorite part of just working in this space, is just being able to find people over the shared interest of, movies, TV, and just storytelling in general. And that might lead into the next question, which is beyond any monetary or financial value, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of the channel for you?
I think the connections for sure. I think we've made friendships from other channels. We made friendships from like patrons and viewers of the channel as well. And just getting to have like real life connections and getting to know these people like outside of just movies as well. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, because you can learn a lot about someone based off of their favorite movies and their favorite TVs and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that is the best thing is the connections. And, you know, when you upload something, the excitement of seeing maybe some of those reoccurring commenters to be like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see what they think about our reaction and stuff."
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a shared bonding with all of this. I mean, even me, like I'm looking at I forgot what it is, the very trippy, weird YouTube videos. You have 3 stuffed animal things.
These guys?
Yeah.
Don't hug me, I'm scared.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, I see that maybe me and you have the same sense of humor. If that's
Yeah. Well, you can credit that to my girlfriend. She's the one that introduced me to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Weird
but I do
stuff.
love them. I've seen them all. Yeah, and yeah, they're really great. But yeah, right. It's almost like a shared like new language. You know, once you sort of open yourself up to movies and TV shows and other things, just hobbies that you haven't experienced before,
Yeah.
and finding people through that. It's like finding a whole new culture of people to sort of speak with and have similar bonding experiences with, like you said. And we do have our final questionnaire here, just 10 questions online for both of you, so you can both answer. So we're gonna launch them at you, just no pressure. Just if you think of something, let us know. But if not, no, we'll move on. It's okay.
Is it like speed? Like we gotta be fast?
No.
Oh.
No speed. You take your time. First question is just what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Breaking Bad.
Let's go.
Okay. I would say either Breaking Bad or Haunting of Hill House.
That's good.
Both great picks.
Yes.
What is your favorite film of all time?
Children of Men.
Oof. Also great.
Yeah. My top 3 always cycle, but I'll just go with Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Yeah. Good balance there. Yeah. What stresses you out?
Oh, everything.
Yeah.
I'm like just a ball of anxiety all of the time.
Yeah.
Time. Yeah, we'll just keep going with that same answer. Time. Just I wish we had more time.
Yeah, always. What helps you relax?
Ooh.
Rotting on the couch and spending time with like family.
Yeah. I would say spending time with family, napping.
He's a big napper.
I'm a big napper. If I'm too stressed, I need a nice little nap.
Yeah, I feel that. What is the hobby or passion you have outside of TV and film?
Rotting. Yeah. I said rotting.
A good rot.
A good rot.
At least, I mean, it used to be dance.
Yeah, I danced like my whole life. So, but I mean, probably the same things that are for relaxation would just be, I don't know if I really have like a hobby.
Yeah.
I have enough hobbies for the both of us.
You do. You have a lot of hobbies.
I would say video games.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the most basic. There's so many hobbies that I want to be a part of, but I just don't have, like, if I had another just like week that appeared, Warhammer, I would like to do a lot of Warhammer. D&D. I've always wanted to play D&D. No one's ever wanted. I've never played. And I can probably go on and on with little stupid hobbies.
He D&D for sure. Like I've always been interested as well. Like, but as we say, time.
Yeah,
it's just a big time commitment to try and start one of those. What fictional character do you relate to or just care deeply about?
That's a great question.
This is just the first thing popping into my mind of like recent was when we watched $1 Million Baby.
Oof.
And just like the relationship between Hilary Swank and Clint Eastwood. I just feel like that relationship was just perfect. Like I loved the like kind of pseudo dad daughter-ish relationship. So I just love those characters together. It doesn't really answer your question, but I'm like, because I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, I would have to go with as weird as it may be, still Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
I love his outlook on everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just because, for me, especially, with people always kind of calling him stupid throughout the movie and stuff, and him kind of never giving any credence to that. But then once he finds out that he has a kid, one of his very first things and concerns is if the kid has disabilities like him. And that at that moment, you kind of realize that this whole time he's understood his limitations, but he's never kind of let it get to him. And he's always kind of viewed things very positively. So I feel like I connect with, I hope to have that type of effect on the world where I maybe go into a situation, I make it more positive than negative. So maybe that.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's a fantastic answer. Yeah. Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, that's great. Both great answers. A little tangent. Have you ever seen the movie Joe Dirt?
Oh, I love Joe Dirt.
I have not seen Joe
Sam has not seen
Dirt.
It just reminds me, like, as you're describing it, I was like, oh yeah, Joe Dirt's like basically just the same thing, just trash bag Forrest Gump.
I think Joe Dirt is an amazing
I like Joe
movie.
Dirt a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be one that I'm going to show her for the channel for sure.
Yeah.
That's funny.
What is your guilty pleasure, show or film?
I mean, I feel like my guilty pleasure is like reality garbage.
Right.
Like it goes from like, like game show type, like Survivor, Big Brother, like that type, to like Housewives, like all of the like Love Island,
Like the real
and,
just trashy
Temptation Island. If you look into what that is, that's like the hottest garbage. Yeah,
that's a great one. Shoot, guilty. I don't know. It would probably just be honestly how much time I spend watching YouTube, just like reactions and like video game stuff. I probably could do a lot better if I didn't spend so much time.
Yeah, I feel that as well. What show or film gave you your favorite reaction experience with the channel?
Ooh.
LA Confidential.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I think that, or The Usual Suspects.
Okay, so like the twist ones.
Yeah.
I would probably say Hereditary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like that was
scarred me for life.
Yeah, that was an experience.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh, Arachnophobia.
Oh yeah.
Also, that was if you haven't seen the Arachnophobia reaction for him.
Because I hate spiders.
It's so I go back and watch that reaction.
That probably should be your guilty pleasure.
My guilty pleasure.
Just watching that reaction. Yeah. It's great. Yeah, crime thrillers and the horror aspect. Yeah, for sure. What show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and react to again for the first time on camera?
Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Which
just the whole thing.
Yeah.
I know, we're kind of honestly kicking ourselves a little bit because I don't really have a very good memory. But we do want to watch Better Call Saul for the channel. And so at the end of my pregnancy, when I started maternity leave, I started rewatching Breaking Bad, and I remembered almost none of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost done on my rewatch of it. And
because there would be like big characters and you're like, who is this? I'm like,
he's looking at me like, are you kidding me? So I'm like, it kind of did erase from my memory, but not enough probably for the channel. But
technically we've seen it. So,
or the fact that I've seen like the last season of Game of Thrones, but I haven't seen anything before that. So I kind of regret watching
a few. I mean, you've only seen a handful of episodes towards the end.
It was like
Game
when
of
we
Thrones.
Moved in together because he was watching them.
Yeah. So it's like you haven't seen 90+% of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but it feels like it's like, oh shoot, like we probably can't watch it because I've seen the end.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, Lord of the Rings. I wish I could wipe that. That's my barometer if I'm going to enjoy someone's channel or not. If they've watched Lord of the Rings, that's like the first thing I'll try to watch.
It is.
Yeah.
And primarily the Ride of the Rohirrim, I think is maybe what it's called. Like the sequence where the third film where they're showing up to, dang.
I feel like you're these names.
Minas Tirith. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And just, the speech and the horns and this. And if someone skips that part, I know automatically, I'm like, we do not enjoy this. Like, we're not going to click.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I wish I could watch Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I've probably seen almost every channel on YouTube. If they've watched Lord of the Rings, I've watched your reaction.
100% he has.
Yeah,
100%.
definitely.
Yeah.
I feel it. Yeah. I'm last year I talked to LM Reactions, and like they had seen it. Lola from that has seen Lord of the Rings. She loves it. Milena has never seen it, and she doesn't want to see it. She thinks like I'm gonna see it. So it's a constant battle between them. She's like, I'm gonna get you to watch it one day and you're going to enjoy it. I told her, just if you can get to the third film, you bow to no one. Trust me.
Oh,
like it'll hit you. I promise you it'll hit you.
You gotta be crying at that part.
Yeah.
Technically though, I've never seen the extended versions of each, because I always, from a very young age when it came out, I always had the plan of having like a Lord of the Rings day where I was going to watch the 3 films, the extended versions, back to back to back. And I never did it, but I always saved it for that moment. And I never, so I'm like, could we technically put that on the channel?
Just the extended?
Yes. Yeah. First time watching the extended version.
Just have a movie marathon, just us all day.
Yeah.
Watching
just
all of them.
Yeah, just do a live stream of you guys sitting and just watching it all day.
Yeah, just rotting.
Literally take like yeah, I think literally take like 14 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Trying to get through it. And the final question here would be, what advice would you give to your past self if you can go back in time when you first started the channel?
I would say just like, don't be so self-conscious about like your thoughts on something. Like in the beginning, I was very much like second guessing, like, oh, like, should I say this? Should I not? And keeping a lot of things in my head. And I think that's why I was pretty quiet. So I think just be yourself from the beginning and just, you know, clearly enough people like it that we've been able to keep going with the channel at this point. So I kind of wish some of those early, like, especially like the big banger films, like I just had the courage to speak up a little bit more.
Which you did excellent with those reactions. But I would say the advice I would give us is record like a couple of months worth of content before
you start the channel.
Before you start anything, bank a couple of months, and then you set yourself up forever.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Great advice. Yeah. Definitely get ahead on that.
Yeah.
I could totally. Thank you so much, Dan, Sam, for being here. I really appreciate it. It's been great just chatting with you too.
Oh, this was an amazing time.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
You made everything flow so perfectly, and the questions were awesome and made us think and stuff. So this was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Where can we find you on YouTube, social media, otherwise?
Yeah, so TBR Schmitt's our channel, and I think pretty much everything is TBR Schmitt, all the socials. And
yeah, just hit TBR Schmitt into Google and see what pops up.
Yeah.
I actually think TBR stands for like the book reading, or
no, I think it's like to be read. It's for books.
I didn't realize that. So I wonder if I always wonder, I'm like, did that help our algorithm?
People are like, I'm trying to read here. What is this?
Right.
Yeah. Just do some book adaptation reviews.
Right. Yeah.
You can find me at Necrotic across social media. Find us at Passionfruit for us across social media as well. You can find our links to our Discord and Patreon below in the descriptions and the video. And we'll catch everyone on the next episode.
Thank you.